Yes. ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिस्सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गोः देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गोः देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गोः देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्। निःश्रेण्यो ब्रह्मलोकस्य वाग्देव्याः कर्णकुण्डले धर्मद्रुममहामूले वाल्मीकिव्यासयो कृति कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलं बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वं मरोगता अजाढ्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं राम नाम वरानने रामनामवरानन ॐ नमः इति। ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ. ಸೊ ಎಸ್, ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ಟುಡೇಸ್ ಸೆಷನ್. ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಜಾಣಗಣೆ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಗಾಯತ್ರಿ ಮಂತ್ರ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕ್ಲಾಪ್ 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 ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ನನಗೆ. ಕ್ಲಾಪ್ 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 ಕ್ಲಾಪ್. ಎಸ್, ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ?
ಎಸ್.
ಹಾಂ. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಯೋಧ್ಯಕಾಂಡ 57ನೇ ಮತ್ತು 58ನೇ ಸರ್ಗ ಎರಡು ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ದೀಪು ಓದಿರ್ಲು. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರವಣಕುಮಾರ ಅವನ ಹತ್ಯೆ ಆಯಿತು ದಶರಥನಿಂದ, ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಆಯ್ತದು. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಅದರದ್ದು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಸೊ ಅವನು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಮಾಡ್ದ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಕ್ರಿಯೆಯಾಗಿತ್ತು, ಅದು ಕರ್ಮವಾಗಿರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಬಟ್ ಶ್ರವಣಕುಮಾರನ ತಂದೆ ತಾಯಿ ಶಾಪ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದೆ ಕರ್ಸ್ ದಶರಥ ದಟ್ ನೀನು ಇದೇ ಥರ ಪುತ್ರದಿಂದ ಸೆಪರೇಷನ್ ನೀನು ಅನುಭವಿಸ್ತೀಯ ಅಂತ ಶಾಪ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಬಂದಿದ್ವಿ. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 2 ಸಬ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 59 ಅಯೋಧ್ಯಕಾಂಡ 59ನೇ ಸರ್ಗ. ಓಕೆ. ನೈಟ್ ಪಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಡೇ ಅರೈವ್ಡ್. The bards presented themselves at the king's residence. ಕೊಟ್ಟ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಅಮ್ಮ ಬರ್ತೈತೆ ಈಗ. ಓಕೆ. Sorry. Night passed and the next day arrived. The bards presented themselves at the king's residence. Bards ಅಂದರೆ ಏನೋ ಶ್ರೀ ನೋಡ್ಬೇಡ ಅರ್ಥಪಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. Bard is a poet ಥರ ಅಂತೆ. A poet traditionally one reciting epics. ಸೊ ಅಂದರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರ ಹೇಳೋರು, ಶ್ಲೋಕಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳೋರು, ಪೂಜಾರಿಗಳ ಥರ. ಅದರ ಉಲ್ಲೇಖ. ಓಕೆ. So the bards presented themselves at the king's residence Those who were accomplished in the auspicious rites presented themselves. ಅದೇ ಎಲ್ಲ ಒಂಥರ ಹೋಮಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂತ ಪುರೋಹಿತರು ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ರೆಫರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. As used to be the practice, women and the best of eunuchs also arrived. Eunuchs ಅಂದರೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಜೆಂಡರ್ಸ್, ನಪುಂಸಕರು. Okay, so as used to be the best, as used to be the practice, women and the best of eunuchs also arrived. They brought golden pots filled with water mixed with yellow sandalwood paste. At the right time, as was the practice, those who were skilled in bathing brought these. These are to bathe the king. King in Snana Matsaka. There were other women, most of whom were maidens. They brought auspicious objects, food, and decorations. There were women who were authorized to approach the place where the Indra of Kosala slept. Really, this reference to Dasharatha as the Indra of Kosala is odd. Perhaps Kausalya's Indra is meant. Kausalya's Indra. ಕೌಸಲ್ಯೇಂದ್ರ ಅಂತ ಬಂದರೆ ಕೌಸಲ್ಯನ ಪತಿ ಅಂತ ಆ ಥರ ಇದೆ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತದಲ್ಲಿ. ಕೋಸಲೇಂದ್ರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇವನ್ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೀಯ ಸಂಗೀತದಲ್ಲಿ ಸುಮಾರು ಕೃತಿಗಳು ಇದೆ ಕೋಸಲೇಂದ್ರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅದು ರಾಮನಿಗೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಡ್, ಅದು ದಶರಥನಿಗೂ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಡ್, ಅದು ಕೋಸಲೇಂದ್ರ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗೂ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅದು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದೇ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಾಟ್ ಟು ವೇಕ್ ಅಪ್ their ಲಾರ್ಡ್. They trembled when they thought that the king was no longer alive. They trembled like blades of grass facing a flood. Trembling in this way, those women looked at the king. They became certain that the calamity they had suspected was true. ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ದಶರಥ ಇಸ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಸೆಂಟೆನ್ಸ್ he passed away ಅನ್ನೋ ಇತ್ತಲ್ವಾ. he gave up his life ಅಂತಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ. at midnight, severely suffering from grief, the one who was generous in appearance gave up his life ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಇನ್ನೂ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ತದೆ ದಶರಥ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ದೇ ಬಿಕೇಮ್ ಸರ್ಟನ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಕೆಲಾಮಿಟಿ ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಸಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ವಾಸ್ ಟ್ರೂ. Those beautiful women began to wail in loud and miserable voices. Wail is to cry. So they were like female elephants in a forest when the leader of the herd has been dislodged. Okay, so dislodged is the leader elephant, main elephant ಎಲ್ಲೋ ದಾರಿ ತಪ್ಪಿ ಹೊಟ್ಟೋದ್ರೆ ಆ ಫೀಮೇಲ್ ಎಲಿಫೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅಪರೆಂಟ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಗೆಟ್ disturbed. At the sound of this shrieking, Kausalya and Sumitra suddenly regained their senses and woke up from their sleep. Kausalya and Sumitra looked at the king and touched him. Lamenting, "Alas, Lord," they fell down on the ground. The daughter of the Indra of Kosala writhed around on the ground. Somebody has joined. Apurva, yes. Hi Apurva, welcome.
Namaste,
Namaste.
namaste.
Okay, yeah. So the daughter of the Indra of Kosala writhed around on the ground. Covered with dust, she was no longer radiant and was like a star that had been dislodged from the sky. The entire place was filled with a crowd of anxious and terrified people. As the miserable relatives lamented, there were sounds of wailing everywhere. All joy instantly vanished, and despondency and misery were seen everywhere. This is what happened when the god among men met his end. Knowing that the illustrious bull among kings had passed away, his wives surrounded him. They were extremely miserable and wailed in piteous tones. As if without a protector, they clung to each other's arms. Okay. Chapter 2, subchapter 60, Ayodhya Kanda, 60ನೇ sarga. He was like a fire that had been pacified, like an ocean without water, like the sun robbed of its radiance. On seeing that the Lord of the earth had left for heaven, Kausalya's eyes filled with tears and she was afflicted by many kinds of grief. Taking the king's head on her lap, she spoke to Kaikeyi. O Kaikeyi, you have accomplished your desire. Without any thorns, enjoy the kingdom alone. Abandoning the king, O cruel one, O one evil in conduct, abandoning me, Rama has departed and my husband has left for heaven. Dislodged from the path, I am without any sense of purpose. I have no interest in remaining alive. Abandoning a husband who was himself like a divinity, which woman would wish to remain alive, with the sole exception of Kaikeyi, who has cast aside dharma? Like a person who eats what should not be eaten, a greedy individual a greedy individual does not understand a sin. Because of Kubja, Kaikeyi has destroyed the lineage of the Raghavas. She forced the king to do what should not be done and exiled Rama and his wife. Hearing this, Janaka will lament, just as I am. Though he is alive, the lotus eyed Rama has been destroyed, and so has the ascetic Sita, the daughter of the king of Videha. She does not deserve unhappiness and will be miserable at the difficulties in the forest. In the night, animals and birds will shriek in terrible tones. On hearing these, it is certain that she will be frightened and seek refuge with Raghava. He is aged and has no sons. Thinking of Vaidehi, it is certain that he will be immersed in grief and will give up his life. The ascetic Kausalya embraced him and lamented in this way, extremely miserable. The attendants removed her from the spot. The advisors immersed the king in a vessel of oil and thereafter did everything else that needed to be done for the king. Without a son being present, the ministers did not wish to perform the king's last rites. Knowing everything about what needed to be done, they therefore preserved the king's body in this way. The advisors laid down the king in a vessel of oil. Knowing that he was dead, the women lamented. They threw up their arms and were in a pitiable state, their eyes and faces overflowing with tears. Tormented by grief, they wept and wailed piteously. The city of Ayodhya was deprived of the great souled king and was like a night without stars or like a woman abandoned by her husband. The eyes of people were full of tears, and women from noble lineages lamented. The crossroads and houses were empty and were no longer resplendent as they used to be earlier. It was as if the firmament bereft of the sun had lost its luster and the night was bereft of its large number of nakshatras. Without the great souled one, the city lost its radiance. The roads and crossroads were crowded with people whose voices choked with tears. 243. However, it has just been said that the crossroads were empty. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ರೋಡ್ಸ್ ವೇರ್ ಎಂಟಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಹೇಳ್ತದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಚೋಕ್ಡ್ ವಿತ್ ಟಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತಿದೆ. Crowds of men and women gathered and condemned Bharata's mother. When the god among men died, the city was afflicted and could not find any peace. Okay. Chapter 2, subchapter 61, Ayodhya Kanda, 61ನೇ Sarga. When night was over and the sun arose, there was an assembly of the king's officers and Brahmanas. There were Markandeya, Maudgalya, Vamadeva, Kashyapa, Katyayana, Gautama, and the immensely famous Jabali. One by one, these Brahmanas and the advisors faced Vasishta, best among royal priests, and spoke to him. The night of misery has passed, and it has been like 100 years. Overcome by sorrow on account of his son, the king has died. The great king has gone to heaven, and Rama has resorted to the forest. The energetic Lakshmana has also departed with Rama. Bharata and Shatrughna, scorchers of enemies, are in Kekeya. They are in the beautiful city and royal palace in their maternal uncle's abode. Someone from the lineage of the Ikshvakus should now be made the king. In the absence of a king, the kingdom will be destroyed. If there is no king in a habitation, clouds garlanded with lightning will not loudly thunder in the sky, and Parjanya will not shower down water from the sky on earth. If there is no king in a habitation, even a fistful of seeds does not sprout. If there is no king, a son does not remain under a father's control, nor a wife under her husband's. In the absence of a king, there is no wealth. In the absence of a king, there is no wife either. There is yet another misfortune too. If there is no king, how can there be truth? If there is no king in a habitation, men do not construct assemblies, beautiful groves, and cheerful and auspicious houses. In the absence of a king, Brahmanas do not engage in sacrifices and generous rites, nor are Brahmanas devoted to their vows. If there is no king in a habitation, large numbers of actors and dancers do not gather at assemblies and festivals and thereby enhance the prosperity of the kingdom. If there is no king in a habitation, disputes do not come to a satisfactory resolution. Those who love tales and are accomplished in reciting the accounts do not delight hearers with their stories. If there is no king in a habitation, men do not leave for the forest in swift moving vehicles, desiring to find pleasure there with women. If there is no king in a habitation, prosperous people are not protected properly and cannot sleep with their doors open, nor can those who earn a living from agriculture and animal husbandry. If there is no king in a habitation, merchants cannot safely travel long distances, carrying with them large quantities of merchandise. There are controlled sages who roam around alone at will, thinking only of the Atman and making a home for the night wherever evening falls. If there is no king in a habitation, they cannot do this. If there is no king in a habitation, yoga and kshema are not ensured. Without a king, soldiers cannot defeat the enemy in a battle. A kingdom without a king is like a river without water, a forest without grass, and cows without a cowherd. If there is no king in a habitation, there is nothing like one's own property. Then, like fish, men devour each other. Without any fear, non believers violate the ordinances, thinking that their inclinations will no longer be chastised by the king's rod. Alas, without a king, it will be impossible to differentiate between anything in this world and separate the virtuous from the wicked. When the great king was alive, we never transgressed your words, like the ocean does not cross the shoreline. ಓ ನೋಬಲ್ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣ. ಸೊ ಇದಿಷ್ಟನ್ನು ಅವರು ವಸಿಷ್ಠನಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಷ್ಟು ರಾಜನಿಲ್ಲದೆ ಏನೇನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಓ ನೋಬಲ್ ಬ್ರಾಹ್ಮಣ, ಲುಕ್ ಅಟ್ ಅಸ್ ಅರೌಂಡ್ ಯು. ವಿತೌಟ್ ಅ ಕಿಂಗ್ ದ ಕಿಂಗ್ಡಮ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಅ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್. You can yourself consecrate a young and generous descendant of the Ikshvaku lineage as the king. Okay. Yes, ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 2, ಸಬ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 62, ಅಯೋಧ್ಯಾಕಾಂಡ 62ನೇ ಸರ್ಗ. Hearing their words, Vasishtha replied to the large numbers of friends, advisors, and all the Brahmanas in these words. Bharata, together with his brother Shatrughna, is happily residing in the city of his maternal uncle in the royal palace. Using swift steeds, let messengers quickly go there and bring the two brave brothers here. What else do we need to think about? All of them told Vasishtha. Let them go. Hearing what they said, Vasishtha spoke these words. Siddhartha, Vijaya, Jayanta, Ashoka, and Nandana, come here. Listen to me. I will tell all of you about everything that needs to be done. Using horses that can travel fast, go to the city and the royal palace. Abandon all sorrow and convey my instructions to Bharata. The priest and all the ministers have asked about your welfare. Depart quickly. There is an extremely urgent work that you have to undertake here. Do not tell him about Rama's exile and do not tell him that his father is dead. Do not tell him about the catastrophe that confronts the Raghava lineage. Quickly collect the best of garments and ornaments from the treasury so that they can be given to the king and to Bharata. then leave. Taking Vasishta's permission, the messengers left quickly. They crossed the river at Hastinapura and headed in a western direction. Oh, I didn't know. ರಾಮಾಯಣದಲ್ಲೂ ಹಸ್ತಿನಾಪುರ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. Nice. They crossed the river at Hastinapura and headed in a western direction. In the midst of Kurujangala, the area around Kurukshetra, oh, they reached the Panchala kingdom. Panchali, so they quickly crossed the divine Sharadanda river, literally a river that has many clumps of reeds. Reeds andre ududa grass tara. Identification of these geographical places is difficult, and a lot has been speculatively written on these. We are deliberately avoiding any such references because they are inherently speculative. ಒಂದು ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇದು ಜಾಗಗಳು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದೇ ಕ್ವಿಕ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ದ ಶರದಂಡ ರಿವರ್ filled with sparkling water and populated by many birds and proceeded through a region populated by people. They approached the divine Nikula tree, also known as Satyopayachana, 240, because prayers made before the tree came true. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮರಕ್ಕ ಹೆಸರು. Passing beyond it, they entered the king of Kulinga. From there, they reached Abhikala and the extensive region of Tejobhibhavana. Through the midst of the Bahlika region, they reached Mount Sudama. They saw Vishnupada, Vipasha, and Shalmali. Because of the difficult journey that had been undertaken, the mounts and the messengers were exhausted. However, swiftly and safely they reached the supreme city of Girivraja, the capital of Kekeya ಅಂತದು. ಕೈಕೇಯ ಏನಂತಾರೆ, ತವರ ಊರು. To do what would bring pleasure to their lord, that is Vasishta, to protect the lineage and to bring welfare to the lineage of their lord, which is Dasharatha, the messengers obeyed their instructions quickly and respectfully. They reached the city in the night. Okay. Yes. Chapter 2, subchapter 63, Ayodhya Kanda, 63ನೇ ಸರ್ಗ. On the same night that the messengers entered the city, Bharata had an unpleasant dream during the night. He had that unpleasant dream when night was about to turn into dawn. It is believed that dreams seen at dawn turn out to be true. Because of this, the son of the king of kings was extremely tormented. His friends, pleasant in speech, got to know that he was tormented. To dispel this and to comfort him, they arranged for stories to be told in an assembly. Some played on peaceful musical instruments, others arranged for the production of plays. There were many kinds of jokes that were cracked. The friends, pleasant in speech, sought to bring pleasure to the great soul Bharata through these joyous gatherings. However, Raghava did not rejoice. Ili Raghava is Bharata ಇಲ್ಲಿ. When he was surrounded by his friends, his most beloved friend asked Bharata, "O friend, why are you not happy even when you are served by your well-wishers?" Thus addressed by the well-wisher, Bharata replied, "Listen to the reason why I am overcome by this despondency. I saw my father in my sleep. He was faded and his hair was disheveled. From the summit of a mountain, he fell down in a lake that was filled with filth and cow dung. I saw him float away in that lake filled with cow dung. He seemed to drink oil from his cupped hands and laughed repeatedly. With his head facing downwards, he repeatedly fed on sesamum seeds. With his limbs covered in oil, he then immersed himself in oil. In the dream, I saw the ocean turn dry and the moon fall down on the ground. Suddenly, the blazing fire seemed to be extinguished. The earth was shattered and many kinds of trees dried up. I saw mountains being whirled around, enveloped in smoke. I saw the king seated on an iron seat, attired in black garments. Women dressed in black and brown seemed to be laughing at him. The one with Dharma in his soul was decorated in red garlands and paste. In a chariot drawn by asses, he seemed to be hurrying towards the southern direction, this direction of death, alva? Dakshina Dikku. This is the terrible sight I saw in the night, as if I, Rama, the king, or Lakshmana will die. In a dream, if a man sees a vehicle that is drawn by asses, gandu kattegalu, asses. So, in a short period of time, the smoke from a funeral pyre will be seen above him. That is the reason for my distress. The reason why I am unable to honor you properly. My throat is parched and my mind is not at peace. Since I cannot comprehend the reason, I am hating myself. Having had this bad dream in different forms, the like of which I have not seen earlier, my mind is disturbed. A great fear has arisen in my heart. I have been thinking about the unthinkable sight of the king. Okay, chapter 2, subchapter 64, Ayodhya Kanda, 64ನೇ sarga. As Bharata was speaking about his dream, the messengers, with their exhausted mounts, crossed over the impenetrable moats and entered the beautiful royal palace in the city. ಮೋಟ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಹೇಳಿದಲ್ಲ ಇದೊಂದು ಕ್ಯಾಸಲ್ ಥರ ಒಂದು ಅರಮನೆ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಅದರದ್ದು ಸುತ್ತ ಒಂದು ನೀರಿನ ಒಂದು ಪಾಂಡ್ ಥರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅದರ ಸರ್ಕಮ್ಫರೆನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ದಾಟಿ ಎನಿಮೀಸ್ ಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಗೋಡೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹತ್ಬಿಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಡೀಪ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ದ್ಯಾಟ್ಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಅ ಮೂಟ್, MOAT. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅದರ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅದೊಂದು ಬ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್ ಥರ ಅಂದರೆ ಕೆಲವು ಮೂವೀಸಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಕೆಲವು ಸೀರಿಯಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾರ್ಟೂನ್ಸಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಕ್ಯಾಸಲ್ಗೆ ಅಥವಾ ಅರಮನೆಗೆ ಒಂದು ಬಾಗಿಲು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಓಪನ್ ಅಪ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಡೌನ್ ಥರ. ಸೊ ದ ಬಾಗಿಲು ವಿಲ್ ಕಮ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫಾಲ್ ಡೌನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಅ ಬ್ರಿಡ್ಜ್. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆ ನೀರು ಮೇಲೆ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ಪ್ಯಾಲೇಸ್ನ ಎಂಟರ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ಥರ. ಸೊ ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಹೋದರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ದೇ ಮೆಟ್ ದ ಕಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಾಸ್ ಆನರ್ಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಪ್ರಿನ್ಸ್. 252 ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯುಧಜಿತ್ ದ ಸನ್ ಆಫ್ Ashwapati, the king of Kekeya. However, the way the sentence is structured, prince could also mean Bharata. Having touched the king's feet, they addressed Bharata in these words. The priest and all the ministers have asked about your welfare. You should leave quickly. There is an extremely urgent task that you have to undertake. O son of a king, this complete collection of 30 crores is to be given to the king, your maternal uncle. Bharata was devoted to his well-wishers and accepted all this. Having honored them with all the objects of desire, he told the messengers, I hope that my father, King Dasharatha, is well. I also hope that the great-souled Rama and Lakshmana are healthy. Is Rama's intelligent mother Kausalya healthy? The noble one knows about dharma and is devoted to dharma. She possesses the insight of dharma. Is the mother in the middle, Sumitra, who knows about dharma and is the mother of the brave Lakshmana and Shatrugna, healthy? My mother Kaikeyi always pursues her own desires. She is wrathful and prone to anger, though she prides herself on her wisdom. What has she said? The messengers were thus addressed by the great souled Bharata. They respectfully replied to Bharata in the following words. O tiger among men, everyone that you have asked about is well. Thus addressed, Bharata told the messengers, I will take the great king's permission and tell him that the messengers are urging me to hurry. Bharata, the son of a king, told the messengers this. Having urged the messengers in these words, he told his maternal uncle, O king, the messengers have urged me to go to my father's residence. Whenever you remember me, I will come here again. Having been thus addressed by Bharata, the king, his maternal uncle, inhaled the fragrance of Raghava's head and addressed him in these auspicious words: O son, with the word, O son, go, you have my permission. Kaikeyi has a good son like you. O scorcher of enemies, tell your mother and father that I have asked about their welfare. O son, ask about the welfare of the priest, the other excellent Brahmanas, and your two brothers who are great archers, Rama and Lakshmana. The king of Kekeya generously offered Bharata gifts of excellent elephants, colorful blankets, and deer skin, riches, 2000 gold coins, and 1600 horses. The king of Kekeya honored Kaikeyi's son by offering all these riches. Ashwapati also provided beloved and trusted advisors who possessed all the qualities so that they could follow Bharata on the fast return journey. There were handsome Airavata elephants from the Indrashira region. 254. While Airavata is the name of Indra's elephant, there were different species of elephants, and Airavata was also one of these. Indrashira was a mountainous area in Kekeya. Kekeya was famous for its animals, elephants, and horses included. Indrashira. There were well trained and swift mules. His maternal uncle gave him all these riches. As a gift, he also gave him extremely large dogs that had been bred in the inner quarters of the palace. These were powerful with the valor of tigers and could use their teeth in fighting. Having taken the leave of his maternal grandfather, his maternal uncle Yudhajit, Bharata with Shatrughna ascended the chariot and got ready to leave. There was a circle of more than 100 chariots, yoked to camels, cattle, horses, and mules. There were also servants who would follow Bharata. The great souled Bharata was protected by this large force. He was also accompanied by advisors who were as noble as him. Possessing no enemies, he also took Shatrughna with him. They left the residence like the Siddhas leaving Indra's world. Okay, chapter 2, subchapter 65. Ayodhya Kanda 65ನೇ ಸರ್ಗ. ಫೈನ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ? ಐ ಹೋಪ್ ದ ಸ್ಪೀಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಓಕೆ. ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಲಾ?
Yes, you can continue.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Okay. From the royal palace, the valiant one headed in an eastern direction. He crossed the wide Hladini river, which flowed in an eastern direction. Sorry, 255. As will become apparent, this route from Rajagriha to Ayodhya doesn't seem to be quite the same as the route from Ayodhya to Rajagriha, followed by the messengers. In addition, it is difficult to understand what some of the expressions mean. Okay. I think ಸುಮಾರು ವರ್ಷಗಳಾದಮೇಲೆ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಈವನ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಳಿದಾಸಸ್ ಮೇಘದೂತ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಇರೋ ಕಾದಂಬರಿಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಸಮ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ he actually tried to go to these places based on the coordinates. ಅಂದರೆ ಇವ್ರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರೋ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಈವನ್ ಮೇಘದೂತದಲ್ಲೂ there is one Rakshasi, I guess, if my memory is right. There is one Rakshasi or a Rakshasa. So there is a Rakshasa and Rakshasi who are in love, but they are away from each other. ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರು ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. So I think the Rakshasa or Rakshasa speaks to a cloud. ಒಂದು ಮೋಡಕ್ಕವನು ಒಂದು ಸಂದೇಶವನ್ನು ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಹಿ ಗಿವ್ಸ್ ಅ ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹಿ ಸೇಸ್, ನೀನು ಹಾರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರೇಯಸಿಗೆ ನೀನು ಹೋಗಿದ್ದನ್ನು ಈ ಸಂದೇಶವನ್ನು ಕೊಡು ನೀನು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಆ ಮೋಡಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಮೇಘದೂತದ ಕಾಳಿದಾಸ ಇಸ್ ರಿಟನ್ ದಿಸ್. ಹಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ಲಿ ಟೆಲ್ಸ್, ಇಷ್ಟು ಯೋಜನೆಗಳು ಈ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್, ಈ ದಿಕ್ಕಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗು, ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೊಂದು ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ, ಆ ದೇವಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಯಾಣಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀನು ಲೆಫ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಎಡಕ್ಕೆ ತಿರ್ಕೋ ಅಥವಾ ಬಲಕ್ಕೆ ತಿರ್ಕೋ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀನು ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋದರೆ ನಿಂಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಬೆಟ್ಟ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಅವನು ಸುಮಾರು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನಂತೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಹಂಡ್ರೆಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ, ಕಾಳಿದಾಸಸ್ ಒಡಿಸಾ ಹಿಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು this Sanskrit scholar, he actually went and he followed those directions, and exactly ಏನೇನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ನೋ ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಕಿಯಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ರಿಮೈನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ದೋಸ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸಸ್ ಹಾಗೆ ಇತ್ತಂತೆ. ಸೊ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೀಸ್ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಹಂಡ್ರೆಡ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟರ್ಸ್. ಸೊ that scholar was saying, how could ಕಾಳಿದಾಸ ನೋ ಆನ್ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಟ್ರಾವೆಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಆ ಲೆವೆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ರೆಸಿಷನ್ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ತು ಅವನಿಗೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಆ ಯೋಜನೆಗಳು, ಅಂದರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟ್ರ್ ಹೋಗು ನೀನು, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀನು ಒಂದು 25 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟ್ರ್ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ ಕಾಳಿದಾಸ ಆವಾಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೇನು ಮೆಷರಿಂಗ್ ಟೇಪ್ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಏನೂ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅವ್ನು ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ 25 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟ್ರದ್ದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಯಿತು, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀನು ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟು 17 ಕಿಲೋಮೀಟ್ರ್ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು, ಆ ಥರ ಈಸ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್. 23 ಯೋಜನೆಗಳು, 35 ಯೋಜನೆಗಳು ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ನಂಬರ್ಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾನೆ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಒಂಥರ ಆ ಥರ ಒಂದು ದೂರದೃಷ್ಟಿ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಶಕ್ತಿ ಇತ್ತು ಆಗಿನ ಕಾಲದ ಪೋಯೆಟ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಹಾಗೆ ಇದೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು, ಸುಮಾರು ಸೈಂಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ಕಮ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಸ್, ಸಾನ್ಸ್ಕ್ರಿಟ್ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಸ್, ದೇ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಫಾಲೋ ದ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಗಿವನ್ ಇನ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣ. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸುಮಾರು ಎಲ್ಲ ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ. ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನು ಉಲ್ಲೇಖಗಳು ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೋ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗೇ ಇದೆ ಅದು. ಸೊ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಡಿಫಿಕಲ್ಟ್ ಟು, ಈಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಸ್ಯಾಟಲೈಟ್ ಇಮೇಜಸ್ನ ನೋಡಿಬಿಡ್ಬೋದು ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇನಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಆಗಿನ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಿಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನು ಅಂತ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಅ ವಂಡರ್. Anyway, so the handsome descendant of the Ikshvaku lineage crossed the Shatadru river. Having crossed the Eladhana river, he reached the region of Aparaparpata. At the places known as Agneya and Shalyakartana, he used rocks to cross over. Truthful in his objective and pure, the handsome one looked at the rocks that were being borne along in the flow. He crossed over a giant mountain and headed for the grove of Chitraratha. There was the forceful flow of the river named Kulinga. This was surrounded by mountains and gladdened the heart. He reached the banks of the Yamuna and made his forces rest there. Their limbs were cooled and the exhausted horses were comforted. They bathed and drank and collected water for use. The prince traversed a gigantic forest that was rarely visited and rarely inhabited. The fortunate one crossed it on well-trained mounts, like the wind coursing through the sky. He reached Jambu Prastha, located on the southern parts of the Torana region. Dasharatha's son reached the beautiful village of Varutha. Having set up camp in the beautiful forest and dwelt there, they headed eastwards. They reached a grove in Ujjihana, full of Priyaka trees. Having reached there, the horses were tethered to the Shala and Priyaka trees. Having given the forces permission to rest there, Bharata left swiftly. He spent some time in Sarvatirtha and crossed the Uttanaka river. Using the horses, he crossed many other mountainous rivers. Astride an elephant, he crossed Kutika. The tiger among men crossed the Kapivati at Lauhitya. He crossed the Sthanumati at Ekashala and Gomati river at Vinata. He reached a grove of Shala trees in the city of Kalinga. ನೋಡಿ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಅವ್ರು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡಿದಾರಂತೆ ಇದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಂತ, ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಆ ಥರ ಏನೋ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನರಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸಸ್ ಥರ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ವಂತೆ. ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಯಲ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಓಕೆ. Though the mounts were extremely exhausted, Bharata proceeded swiftly. Through the night, he swiftly traversed through the forest. When the sun was about to rise, he saw the city of Ayodhya, but built by King Manu. Having spent 7 nights on the road, the tiger among men saw the city. From the chariot, he saw Ayodhya in front of him and told the charioteer, O charioteer, Ayodhya can be seen at a distance, like a mass of white clay. It is illustrious and filled with sacred groves, though it cannot be seen clearly from here. Because of sacrifices performed, it possesses all the qualities and it is full of Brahmanas who are accomplished in the Vedas. It also has a large number of aged people, protected by the best of royal sages. ದಶರಥನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. Earlier, a large and tumultuous sound used to be heard from Ayodhya in every direction, spoken by the men and women. However, I do not hear that today. In the evening, in every direction, the garden would be full of sporting men who would run around. However, it seems to me to be otherwise today. 257. Though it was morning when Bharata reached, ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಆದರೂ ಕೂಡ ಏನೂ ಶಬ್ದ ಏನೂ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. Abandoned by those who seek pleasures, the gardens seem desolate now. O charioteer, to me, the city seems to be like a forest. Vehicles cannot be seen there, nor can the neighing of horses be heard. Earlier, the best among men used to constantly enter and leave. I see many kinds of evil signs and inauspicious portents. That is the reason my mind is distressed. With the exhausted mounts, he entered through the Vaijayanta gate. 258 is gate that signifies victory. With pronouncements of victory uttered by gatekeepers who stood up, he entered with his followers. With an anxious heart, he greeted the many people at the gate. Raghava told Ashwapati's exhausted charioteer, Earlier, we have heard about what happens when kings are destroyed. O charioteer, I see all those signs here. I see anxious people, men and women in the city, distressed, eyes full of tears, miserable, deep in thought, and extremely afflicted. Distressed in his mind, Bharata spoke these words to the charioteer. Witnessing all these inauspicious signs, he proceeded towards the royal palace. He saw the city which used to be like Indra's city. The top of the gates and houses and the roads were deserted. The red gates and the machines on the gates were covered with dust. He saw many such things that were disagreeable to the mind, those that had never been seen in the city earlier. He was unhappy and distressed in his mind, with his head lowered down. He thus entered his great souled father's residence. Okay. Chapter 2, subchapter 66. Ayodhya Kanda, 66ನೇ Sarga. He did not see his father there, in his father's residence. To see his mother, Bharata went to his mother's residence. Kaikeyi saw that her son, who had been away, had arrived. Delighted in her mind, she leapt up from her golden seat. The one with Dharma in his soul entered his own house, which was devoid of all signs of prosperity. On seeing his mother, Bharata touched her auspicious feet. She embraced the illustrious one and inhaled the fragrance of his head. Placing Bharata on her lap, she started to question him. How many nights have passed since you left the Aryaka's residence? That is Ashwapati's father. Having swiftly come on a chariot, are you not exhausted? Is Aryaka well? How is Yudhajit, your maternal uncle? O son, was your residence there happy? Tell me everything. Kaikeyi asked these questions to her beloved son of the king. The lotus-eyed Bharata told his mother everything that he had been asked. This is the 7th night since I left Aryaka's residence. My mother's father is well, and so is Yudhajit, my maternal uncle. The king, the scorcher of enemies, gave me riches and jewels as gifts. However, my companions became exhausted along the way, and I arrived ahead of them. I came quickly because the messengers conveyed the king's message. O mother, you should answer what I wish to ask you. This gold decorated bed used for lying down is empty. The people of the Ikshvaku lineage do not seem to be happy to me. The king is usually here in my mother's residence. I do not see him here now. I came here to meet him. I wish to touch my father's feet. Tell me what I am asking you. I see. Perhaps he is there in my eldest mother, Kausalya's residence. At this, Kaikeyi told him the terrible and disagreeable news, as if she was recounting something unpleasant. She told him what she knew, but he did not, about how she was confounded by her greed for the kingdom. Your father has confronted the end that is attained by all living creatures. Bharata followed Dharma and was born in a noble and auspicious lineage. Hearing these words, afflicted by great grief on account of his father, he suddenly fell down on the ground. He was extremely miserable on account of his father's death and was senseless with grief. His senses averl and distracted, the immensely energetic one lamented. In earlier times, this extremely beautiful bed of my father's used to be radiant. Deprived of the intelligent one, that is the reason it does not shine any longer. She saw that the one who was like a god was afflicted and had fallen down on the ground. She raised the afflicted one and addressed him in these words: Arise, O immensely illustrious prince. Why are you lying down? Arise. Those like you, revered in the assemblies of men, do not grieve in this way. Writhing around on the ground, he wept for a long time. Afflicted by many kinds of grief, he replied to his mother, I thought that the king was going to consecrate Rama, or that he had decided to perform a sacrifice. Having thought in this way, I cheerfully undertook this journey. Everything has turned out to be the opposite, and my mind is shattered. I do not see my father, who was always engaged in my welfare. O mother, before I return, what disease did my father die of? Tell me that quickly. My elder Rama, whose deeds are unblemished, is like a father now. O noble one who follows Dharma knows this. I will grasp his feet. He is my refuge now. O noble lady, for my father, truth was his valor. What did he say? I want to myself hear his last and virtuous words. Thus asked, Kaikeyi told him words that were in conformity with the truth. The king lamented, uttering the names of Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana. Thus did the great souled one, supreme among all refuge, go to the world hereafter. These were the last words spoken by your father. He was like a giant elephant in a noose, entangled in the dharma of time. Men who see Rama, Sita, and the mighty armed Lakshmana return again will accomplish their objective. Men who see Rama, Sita, and the mighty armed Lakshmana return again will accomplish their objective. Hearing this second piece of unpleasant news, he was distressed again. With a miserable face, he again asked his mother, Where is the extender of Kausalya's delight, the one with Dharma in his soul now? Where have my brother Lakshmana and Sita gone with him? Thus asked, his mother started to tell him everything that had happened. This was unpleasant news, though she thought it was pleasant. O son, the prince has attired himself in bark and has gone to the great forest. With Vaidehi and Lakshmana following him, he has gone to Dandaka. Hearing this, Bharata was terrified because he suspected this might have had something to do with his brother's character and would therefore reflect on his lineage's greatness. He asked, Has Rama seized the riches of a Brahmana? Has he caused injury to a rich or poor person or to an innocent one? Has the prince sought after another person's wife? Has he been exiled to Dandakaranya because of feticide? Feticide is before the baby can be born, adana ಭ್ರೂಣ ಹತ್ಯೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, that is feticide. At this, the fickle mother narrated the truth about what she had exactly done because of her feminine sentiments. Rama has not seized any Brahmana's riches, he has not caused injury to a rich or poor person or to one who is innocent, nor has Rama cast a glance at another person's wife. O son, I heard about Rama being consecrated as the heir apparent. I immediately asked your father for the kingdom and for Rama's exile. Following standards of conduct he set for himself, your father acted accordingly. He sent Rama, Saumitri, and Sita away. The king could no longer see his beloved and immensely illustrious son. He died on account of sorrow over his son. O one who knows about Dharma, you can rightfully claim the kingship now. All that I did was done for your sake. O son, following the ordinances, quickly meet the ones who know about the rites, the Indras among Brahmanas, led by Vasishtha. At the right time, without any distress in your heart, consecrate yourself as the king over this earth. ಹಿಂಗಿರ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೋವಾಗ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಇಮ್ಯಾಜಿನ್ ಹೌ ಹಿ ವುಡ್ ಹವ್ ಫೆಲ್ಟ್ ಎನಿವೆ 9:54 ಆಯ್ತು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಪಾಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಯಾ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 2 ಸಬ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ 67 ಇಂದ ರೆಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ ಅಂತೆ ಎನಿ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ anything anybody wanted to share? Stop presenting. Okay. ಯಾ ಏನೋ ಕಾಂಟೆಂಪ್ಲೇಷನ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಸ್ ಥರ ಅಂತ ಏನು ತೋರಿಸ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ ಈಗ ಓದಿರೋಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾ ಸೊ ಹೌ ದ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಐ ಮೀನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಕೈಕೇಯಿದು ವರ್ತನೆ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ವಾಸ್ ಶಿ ರಿಯಲಿ ಆ್ಯನ್ ಎನ್ಲೈಟೆಂಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್? ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಾನು ಯಾವುದೋ ಐ ಫರ್ಗಾಟ್ ವಿಚ್ ವರ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಅಂತ ನೆನಪಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ರಾಮಾಯಣದಂತೂ ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ವರ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಕಂಬನ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣ, ತುಳಸಿದಾಸನ ರಾಮಚರಿತ ಮಾನಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಶ್ರೀಲಂಕಾದಲ್ಲಿ ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣ, ದೆರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಇನ್ ಇಂಡೋನೇಷ್ಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೋ ಮೆನಿ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಆರ್ ದೇರ್.
ಕುವೆಂಪು ರಾಮಾಯಣ
ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಏನೋ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ದರ್ಶನಂ ಅಂತೇನಲ್ವ ಅದು. ಅದೆಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದೋಸ್ ರಾಮಾಯಣಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೈಕೇಯಿ ವಾಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಎನ್ಲೈಟೆಂಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಹೂ ನ್ಯೂ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ರಾಮ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ ಟು ಗೋ ಟು ದ ಫಾರೆಸ್ಟ್ ಟು ಕಿಲ್ ರಾವಣ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಈ ಥರ ನಾಟಕ ಆಡಿದ್ಲು ಅಂತ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ರಾಮಾಯಣದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೆ. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ವಿಚ್ ವರ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಲ್ಮೀಕಿ ರಾಮಾಯಣ ಇಲ್ಲೀಗ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಓದುವಾಗ it didn't come across. I mean, I don't know if they have ever mentioned that Kaikeyi did all of these things purposely, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದಶರಥ ಅವನಾಗವನೇ ಖಂಡಿತ ರಾಮನ್ ಕಳಿಸ್ತಿರ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದೊಂದೇ ದಾರಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು, ರಾಮನ್ನ ಕಾಡಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸಿ ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿತ್ತವಾಗಿ ಅವನ ಕಾಡಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಇವೆನ್ಚುಲಿ ರಾವಣನ ಸಾಯಿಸಬೇಕಾಗಿತ್ತು ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಅದರ ಉಲ್ಲೇಖ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಇನ್ ವಾಲ್ಮೀಕಿ ರಾಮಾಯಣ. ಫರ್ದರ್ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ ವರ್ಷನ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಎನಿವೆ, ಸೊ ಆ ಥರನೂ ಒಂದು ತಾಯಿ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ನನ್ನ ಮಗ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಯಾರಿಟಿ ಸಿಕ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು ನನ್ನ ಮಗನಿಗೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ಯಾರಿಗೆ ತೊಂದರೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನೋ ಅದನ್ನು ಚಿಂತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ. ಬಟ್ ನನ್ನ ಮಗನಿಗೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪ್ರಯಾರಿಟಿ ಸಿಕ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಏನೇನು ಪ್ರಾಸ್ಪೆರಿಟಿ ಸಿಗಬೇಕೋ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕಷ್ಟೇ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನಾನು ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡಬಲ್ಲೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಥರನೂ ತಾಯಿಗಳಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ದಿಸ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಯಾ, ಅಟ್ ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ವಿ ನೋ ಹೌ ನಾಟ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಇನ್ ದೀಸ್ ಚಾಪ್ಟರ್ಸ್. ಎನಿವೆ, ಓಕೆ. ಎನಿ ಅದರ್ ಥಾಟ್ಸ್, ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದ್ದರೆ ವಿಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್, ಇಲ್ಲಾಂದರೆ ವಿಲ್ ವೈಂಡ್ ಅಪ್. ಓಕೆ, ಹಾಗಾದರೆ ಶಾಂತಿ ಮಂತ್ರ ಹೇಳಿಬಿಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಓಂ ಸರ್ವೇ ಭವಂತು ಸುಖಿನಃ, ಸರ್ವೇ ಸಂತು ನಿರಾಮಯಾಃ, ಸರ್ವೇ ಭದ್ರಾಣಿ ಪಶ್ಯಂತು, ಮಾ ಕಶ್ಚಿತ್ ದುಃಖಭಾಗ್ ಭವೇತ್. ಓಂ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ. ಸಹನಾ ಭವತು, ಸಹನೋ ಭುನಕ್ತು, ಸಹ ವೀರ್ಯಂಕರವಾವಹೈ, ತೇಜಸ್ವಿನಾವಧೀತಮಸ್ತು ಮಾ ವಿದ್ವಿಷಾವಹೈ. ಓಂ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ. ಅಸತೋ ಮಾ ಸದ್ಗಮಯ, ತಮಸೋ ಮಾ ಜ್ಯೋತಿರ್ಗಮಯ, ಮೃತ್ಯೋರ್ಮಾ ಅಮೃತಂ ಗಮಯ. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ All right. Thank you, Elru. See you next Thursday. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.